I failed at conversation for 10 years. 10 years of saying the right things that felt completely wrong. 10 years of following advice that killed every spark before it started. 10 years of watching other men walk into rooms and create magnetic presence, while I created polite indifference. Then I saw something that changed everything. A conversation that lasted 4 minutes. Just 4 minutes. But those 4 minutes taught me more than a decade of trying hard ever did. IT was at a networking event, was doing my usual thing, asking good questions, showing genuine interest, being a great listener, all the things you're supposed to do. And I was losing every single person within 2 minutes. Not because I was rude, because I was forgettable. Then this guy walked up to a group I'd just left. He didn't ask questions, he didn't show interest first. He made a statement, a bold one. Something like, everyone here is pretending to care about networking, when they really just want to leave and check their phones. The group laughed. Then they leaned in. Within minutes, they were the ones asking him questions. He wasn't chasing attention. Attention was chasing him. Carl Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But here's what nobody tells you. Most conversations never create that reaction. They're polite exchanges, information transfers, social performances. No transformation. Nitrogen, monoxide chemistry. Just time passing until someone escapes. This video is about the 6 principles that create actual chemistry in conversation, not tricks, not manipulation. Principles based on how human psychology actually works. These principles apply to dating, sure, but they also apply to job interviews, negotiations, friendships, leadership. Any situation where you want genuine connection instead of polite distance. And here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Being strategic about conversation doesn't make you fake. IT makes you effective. Every great communicator in history was strategic. They understood what they were doing and why it worked. The people who say, just be yourself, are usually the same people wondering why being themselves isn't working. Nietzsche said that all truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. But I'd add this. All truly great connections are conceived through intentional presence. And intentional means you know what you're doing. You're not winging. IT. You're not hoping. You're creating conditions where connection becomes natural. Before we dive into the principles, I need to address something. Some of you are thinking, this sounds manipulative. So let me draw a clear line. Manipulation is changing someone's behavior for your benefit against their best interest. Mastery is showing up as your best self so both people can connect authentically. Same tools, completely different intent. Think about it this way. When you prepare for a job interview, you're being strategic. When you plan a date, you're being strategic. When you choose your words carefully with your kids, you're being strategic. Strategy isn't fake. Unconsciousness is lazy. And lazy communication gets lazy results. Greene teaches that power comes from understanding the rules of the game. Conversation has rules, psychological rules, energy rules, attention rules. Most people don't know the rules, so they play badly. Then they blame the game instead of learning to play better. Here's principle number 1. The gravity principle. Every conversation has an invisible force, a pull. And that pull goes in one direction. Either you're pulling toward them, or they're pulling towards you. Either you're seeking their approval, or they're seeking yours. Either you're hoping they like you, or they're hoping you find them interesting. Most people spend conversations pulling toward others, complimenting, explaining, seeking validation, filling silences, proving their worth. And when you pull towards someone, something shifts in their mind. Unconsciously, they categorize you as a seeker. Someone who wants something, someone beneath them in value. Not because they're arrogant, because that's how human psychology works. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this. He wrote that the person who wants least controls the dynamic, not because wanting is wrong, but because visible wanting shifts power. The moment your need becomes obvious, leverage transfers to the other person, and leverage shapes everything. The gravity principle isn't about not caring. It's about caring from a position of wholeness, not neediness. It's the difference between "I hope you like me" and "I wonder if we'll like each other." Same conversation, completely different energy. And energy transmits before words ever register. Sigmund Freud discovered that our unconscious mind processes social signals faster than our conscious mind processes words. When you walk up to someone, they know within 3 seconds whether you're seeking or offering, whether you need them or you're curious about them, whether you're complete without them or incomplete. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about pretending you're better than anyone. This is about internal state, about being genuinely okay whether this conversation goes well or not, about being interested without being desperate, about being present without being needy. Let me show you what this looks like practically. Wrong energy sounds like this in your head. "I hope they like me. I need this to go well. I should be impressive. What if I say something stupid? I need to keep their interest." That energy leaks through every word, every gesture, every pause. They feel it before you finish your first sentence. Right energy sounds like this. "I wonder if this person is interesting. Let's see what they're about. This could be good or boring. I'll know in a few minutes." Feel the difference. The first energy makes them the judge. The second makes you the one evaluating. First creates pressure. The second creates curiosity. Marcus Aurelius taught that our life is what our thoughts make it. In conversation, your internal state creates your external reality. If you enter a conversation from need, you create a dynamic of pursuit. If you enter from curiosity, you create a dynamic of mutual exploration. One repels, the other attracts. Here's what I've learned watching that guy at the networking event. Wasn't better looking than me. He wasn't smarter. He wasn't more interesting. But his energy was different. He didn't need anyone in that room. He was curious about them, and that curiosity from a place of wholeness created magnetic pull. Now let me show you how to apply this principle in the first 10 seconds of any conversation. Because how you start determines the gravity, direction. And gravity is very hard to reverse once it's set. Most people open conversations by seeking. They ask for information. They request permission. They apologize for interrupting. "Hi, sorry to bother you, but what do you do?" Or "Excuse me, I hope I'm not interrupting. But where are you from?" Every word broadcasts need. Every word pushes gravity away. The gravity principle in action starts with statements, not questions. Observations, not requests. You lead with what you see, what you notice, what you think. You offer perspective before seeking validation. This immediately reverses the dynamic. You're not the applicant. You're the observer. Examples. Instead of "Hi, what's your name?" Try have this energy like you're either having the best time or planning your escape route. Instead of "What do you do?" try you seem like someone who's really good at looking interested in things that bore you. Instead of "How do you know the host?" try "I'm guessing you're the only person here who's actually thinking about something real." Notice what these do. They demonstrate perception. They create curiosity. They require response, but don't seek approval. They position you as someone who sees beneath surfaces, and people are magnetically drawn to anyone who sees them accurately. Carl Jung talked about the shadow. The hidden parts of ourselves we don't show the world. When you make observations that hint at someone's shadow, that hint at complexity beneath their social mask, something shifts. They think, how did this person see that? Who is this? That question creates pull toward you. Here's principle number 2. The tension principle. Comfortable conversation doesn't create attraction. Comfort creates safety. Safety creates friendship. Friendship creates the zone where romantic possibility dies. What creates attraction is productive tension. The right kind at the right dose at the right time. Jordan Peterson teaches that growth happens at the edge of order and chaos. Too much order and nothing changes. Too much chaos and everything breaks. Conversation works the same way. Too comfortable and nothing sparks. Too tense and people flee. The art is hovering at the edge. Let me show you what productive tension looks like. It's saying something slightly challenging but playful. You seem like someone who plays IT safe. I could be wrong. It's creating interpretive ambiguity. She asks if you're flirting. Say, I haven't decided yet. It's questioning what they present for approval. They mention their impressive job. You say, interesting. Do you actually enjoy IT, or is IT just something that sounds good? Each of these creates a moment of uncertainty, not cruelty, not meanness, just light friction. And friction generates heat. Friction generates engagement. Friction makes them work for your approval instead of automatically receiving IT. Nietzsche wrote about the dance of attraction as advance and retreat, tension and release. Static lines create nothing. Rhythm creates everything. So you don't maintain constant tension. You create hold IT briefly, then release it with warmth. Then you create it again. Here's the pattern. Create tension with a challenge. Hold it for a moment. Let them respond. Then release with genuine warmth. Show that the challenge wasn't hostility. IT was playfulness. Then reset to comfortable conversation. Then create tension again. This rhythm mimics natural chemistry. Example scene. You're talking to someone new. They mention they're very independent. Create tension, interesting. That's usually code for something. In my experience, people who emphasize independence are often protecting against something. Hold IT. Let them explain. They reveal something real. Release. I respect that. Takes strength to recognize that about yourself. Reset. Change subject to something lighter. 5 minutes later, create tension again. The key is calibration. If they're enjoying the challenge, leaning in, engaging more, you're calibrated correctly. If they're pulling away, withdrawing, getting defensive, you've pushed too hard. Release immediately with warmth. Recalibrate. Robert Greene writes about the power of keeping people slightly off balance. Not enough to create discomfort, just enough to maintain engagement. WHEN. People know exactly where they stand with you. Tension disappears. When they're slightly uncertain, they stay engaged, wondering, working to understand you. Principle number 3. The silence principle. The average person is terrified of conversational pauses. Watch them. The second silence opens, they rush to fill it. Words spill out, not because they add value, but because silence feels like failure. This fear is the source of most weak communication. Silence is an absence. Silence is presence. And when you learn to be comfortable in it, silence becomes more powerful than any words. Here's why. Silence creates gravity. When you're comfortable in pause, you demonstrate something crucial. You're not anxious. You're not seeking approval. You're not afraid they'll leave if you stop entertaining them. Epictetus taught, but it is not what happens to us, but our reaction that matters. Most people react to silence with panic. You react with calm. That calm transmits. That calm signals confidence. That calm creates pull. Silence also creates investment. When you don't fill space, the other person often will. And every time they fill space, they invest. They share more. They reveal more. They do the work that deepens connection. You're not extracting, you're allowing space for them to give. Practical application. When someone asks you something meaningful, don't answer immediately. Pause. Hold eye contact. Count to 2. Then answer. Those 2 seconds change everything. They signal your answer isn't automatic. That you're actually considering, that your thoughts are worth waiting for. Another application. When someone shares something, don't immediately respond with your own story or advice. Just hold their gaze. Nod slightly. Silence. Invite them to continue. Most people will elaborate. Go deeper. Share things they didn't plan to share. Because you created space, and space invites filling. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the power of assertion over inquiry. The person who states shapes reality. The person who asks is shaped by answers. But I'd add this. The person who's comfortable in silence shapes reality most of all. Because silence is the ultimate assertion. IT says, I don't need to fill every second. I'm comfortable with what is. Here's what I learned. When I stopped fearing silence, my conversations transformed. People shared more. Connections deepened. I stopped performing and started being present. And presence is magnetic in a world of constant performance. Now let's talk about principle number 4, the question architecture. Because not all questions are equal. Some questions create pull. Others push IT away. There are 3 types of questions. Information questions, opinion questions, and depth questions. Information questions are what most people default to. What do you do? Where are you from? How long have you lived here? These questions have 0 gravity. They're administrative. They treat people like forms to be filled out rather than mysteries to explore. And worse, they put you in secret position. You're requesting data. They're deciding whether to grant it. Every information question you ask early in conversation pushes gravity away from you. You're the interviewer. They're the one being interviewed. That dynamic rarely creates attraction. Opinion questions are slightly better. What do you think about this place? How do you feel about your work? These invite perspective rather than just data. But they're still oriented around extraction. You're still asking. They're still providing. The dynamic remains unbalanced. Depth questions are where real connection lies. A depth question invites reflection. IT asks someone to consider something they haven't fully articulated before. IT makes them feel seen while simultaneously making them curious about you. Examples. What's something you're passionate about that most people don't know? Or when do you feel most like yourself? Or what's a belief you've changed your mind about recently? These questions don't extract surface information. They invite exploration. They require thought. They create investment. Sigmund Freud understood that people bond most deeply when they share things they don't normally share. Surface conversation creates surface connection. But when someone tells you something true, something they haven't told others, a bond forms. They've invested. And people value what they've invested in. But here's the critical part most people miss. You don't ask depth questions immediately. You earn the right to ask them. The architecture looks like this. Phase 1. You lead with observations and statements. Nitrogen monoxide questions at all? You offer perceptions that invite correction or confirmation. Phase 2. You ask like curiosity questions, not information questions. Curiosity questions phrased like, I'm curious why you chose that over something else, or what made you decide to do that. These show interest without seeking approval. Phase 3. Only after they're already engaged. Only after gravity is already pointing toward you, then you ask depth questions. Now the question lands as genuine interest rather than interview technique. Now it feels like intimacy instead of extraction, Machiavelli wrote. That timing is the master variable. The same action at different moments produces completely different results. Questions obey this law absolutely. The question that creates bonding at minute 10 creates awkwardness at minute 1. Here's the rule. They should be asking you at least as many questions as you're asking them. If you're the only one asking, gravity's wrong. You're pulling toward them. Correct this by reducing questions and increasing statements. Statements don't require a response. They don't seek. They give. Carl Jung taught that until you make the unconscious conscious, IT will direct your life. Most people ask questions unconsciously, feel silence. They default to interrogation. They don't realize they're creating the dynamic they're trying to avoid. Make IT conscious, choose statements. Choose observations. Choose silence. Let them ask you. Principle number 5. The revelation principle. Every person reveals too much too soon. They're excited. They're interested. They want connection. So they share their story, their ambitions, their failures, their philosophy. Everything offered up immediately, hoping that openness creates intimacy. It creates the opposite. Too much revelation, too quickly doesn't build connection. IT erases mystery. And mystery is the engine of sustained attraction. Once someone knows everything about you, there's nothing left to discover. Nothing left to wonder about. Nothing pulling them toward future interaction. The revelation principle says this: share yourself in layers. Each layer requires investment before the next is revealed. Think of it like climbing a ladder. At the bottom are surface things. Job, hobbies, where you live. At the top are deep things. Fears, dreams, wounds, beliefs about life and love. Most people skip rungs. They jump from surface too deep in one conversation because they've been told vulnerability creates connection. Here's what actually happens. The other person receives deep information before they've invested. IT lands with nitrogen monoxide context. They haven't earned IT. They don't value IT. And worse, IT signals you give this to everyone. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, that value derives from scarcity. What's freely given is worth nothing. What's rare is treasured. Your inner world is valuable. Treat IT as such. Share it like the rare gift IT is, not like common currency spent on anyone. The latter approach looks like this. Rung 1. Surface information delivered with slight mystery. You mention your work, but don't explain it fully. You reference your past, but don't detail it. You gesture at depth without diving in. Example, they asked, what'd you do? Instead of explaining completely, you say, I help people solve problems they're pretending they don't have. If they want more, they have to ask. You've created a curiosity gap, a reason to engage deeper. Rung 2. After they've invested through questions and their own sharing, you reveal slightly more. Still not the full picture, but more than before. You explain your work a bit more, then mention, but what I really do is something else entirely. That's just how I fund it. Now there's another layer. Another thing they don't know. Another rung to climb. Rung 3, reserved for genuine connection. Hours and not minutes. Maybe not even the first conversation. They've proven their worth IT. through consistent interest and their own vulnerability. Now you match. Robert Greene teaches about strategic absence. In conversation, IT's not just about what you say, it's about what you don't say. The spaces you create. The questions you leave unanswered. The mystery you maintain without appearing to maintain. Here's a powerful technique. The reference without explanation. You mention something from your past or your inner life without explaining IT, not as a tease, just as a natural reference. Example, you're telling a story and you say, "These was back when I was still running from everything." Then you continue the story without elaborating. They're now curious. Running from what? What changed? But you don't explain. They can ask if they want, or they can wonder. Either way, you've created depth without dumping. You've shown complexity without performing IT. Principle number 6. The exit principle. Everything we've covered means nothing if you end conversations wrong. The exit is the final taste. The last impression. The thing that lingers. Get it wrong and you erase everything you built. Get it right and you multiply it. Most people ride conversations until they die. They wait for energy to fade. They let awkwardness creep in. Then they mumble something about leaving. They linger too long. They over-explain their departure. This ending poisons everything before IT. Robert Greene wrote about the art of knowing when to stop. The master doesn't overstay. The master leaves while energy is high. While desire is still building, while the other person still wants more. This is the principle. Exit at the peak, not the decline. It seems backwards. Why would you leave when things are going well? Because the peak is what they'll remember. Because leaving while they want more creates craving. Because your absence now makes your presence later more valuable. Marcus Aurelius taught that the wise man recognizes the right moment and acts. Most people don't recognize the right moment. They stay too long at the party. They talk past the point of interest. They don't notice when peak is passed. You need to notice, and you need to act when you do. Here's what this looks like. The conversation has been flowing for 15 minutes. They're laughing, sharing, clearly engaged. Most people would think, "This is great. Let's keep going." You think differently. You say, "I need to get back to my friends, but this was good." What's your number? Notice the brevity. Nitrogen monoxide over-explanation. No apology, no reluctance. Just clean, confident exit. They're surprised. The conversation was going well. Why is he leaving? This surprise is good. IT maintains uncertainty. IT creates pull. IT means they'll think about you after you're gone. Compare this with the person who stays until conversation dies. They don't create mystery. They don't create craving. Interaction ended with a whimper. And that whimper is what gets remembered, not the good parts that came before. Nietzsche understood that all satisfaction is merely the removal of desire. Once desire is removed, satisfaction leaves too. By exceeding while desire is still present, you preserve it. You carry it into the space between this conversation and the next. You make them want to see you again. Let me give you specific exit techniques. The first is the future frame exit. You leave by referencing a future interaction as if it's already decided. Example, I'm going to take you somewhere next week. You'd love it, but I have to go now. What's your number? The future frame assumes continuation. IT doesn't ask if they want to see you again. IT assumes they do. This confidence is attractive by itself, and IT gives them something to look forward to. A reason to give you their contact, information beyond just politeness. The second technique is the cliffhanger exit. You leave in the middle of something unresolved. A story a cuestión, una suerte. A topic, unexplored. Example, you're telling a story. Right, as you're building to the interesting part, you check the time. I actually have to go. I'll tell you the rest next time. They're now in an open loop. They need to see you again to close it. The exit created a hook for future interaction. This works in professional settings too. In a job interview, you can leave a thought incomplete. There's something else I've been working on that relates to this role, but we're running short on time. I'd love to tell you about IT if we speak again. The third technique is the mysterious exit. You leave with something. Explain. Example. I need to go. There's something I need to take care of. Then you look at them with slight intensity. But I'm glad I met you. What does he need to take care of? Why did he look at me like that? The mystery lingers. Carl Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like a chemical reaction. Both are transformed, but transformation requires time between exposures. The chemicals need space to integrate. The exit creates that space. It gives them time to think about you, to process the interaction, to wonder about the next one. Here's what I learned the hard way. I used to stay in conversations until they naturally ended, until there was nothing left to say, until silence became awkward. Then I'd leave feeling like I'd failed somehow. But I was creating the failure by staying too long. When I started exiting at the peak, everything changed. People texted me first. They asked when we could talk again. They remembered our conversations vividly because the last taste was good, not awkward. The exit multiplied everything that came before IT. Now let me tie all 6 principles together. Because they work as a system, not as isolated tactics. You enter conversations from wholeness, not need. That's the gravity principle. You create productive tension through playful challenge. That's the tension principle. You're comfortable in silence. That's the silence principle. You ask depth questions only after earning them. That's the question architecture. You reveal yourself in layers, maintaining mystery. That's the revelation principle. You exit while they want more. That's the exit principle. Together, these create conversations that people remember, that create real connection, that generate attraction, whether in dating, business, or friendship. Epictetus taught that we don't control external events, only our responses to them. You can't control whether someone likes you. You can only control the energy you bring, the tension you create, the silence you hold, the questions you ask, the mystery you maintain, and the timing of your exit. And when you control these things consciously, intentionally, masterfully, something amazing happens. You stop hoping people will like you. You start evaluating whether you like them. You stop performing for approval. You start being present with curiosity. You stop chasing connection. You start creating conditions where connection becomes natural. This isn't manipulation. This is mastery. The difference is intent. Manipulation serves only you. Mastery serves connection. Manipulation takes from others. Mastery elevates everyone involved. These principles work because they're based on how psychology actually functions, how attention works, how attraction develops, how memory forms. The question isn't whether to be strategic. Everyone is strategic, whether they know IT or not. The question is whether you're consciously strategic in ways that create a genuine connection, or unconsciously strategic in ways that repel IT mode. People are unconsciously pushing away the connections they want, through need, through interview questions, through revealing everything, through staying too long. All unconscious, all creating the opposite of what they intend. These 6 principles make the unconscious conscious. They give you control over what you're already doing. They let you create deliberately instead of accidentally. They transform conversation from something that happens to you into something you shape. I'm not promising this will make everyone like you. I'm promising it'll make you magnetic to the people who matter. The people capable of real connection. The people worth knowing. Those people will feel something different with you. Something rare. Something they want more of. And that's where everything changes. Not in the first conversation, but in the space after it, when they're thinking about you. Wondering about you. Wanting to see you again. That's when you know the principles are working. That's when you know you VA reverse the gravity. Start with one principle. Master IT. Then add another. Within months, conversation stops being something you're anxious about and starts being something you enjoy. Something you're good at. Something that opens doors, creates opportunities, and builds genuine connections. The 6 principles are simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. They require awareness. They require practice. They require the courage to do something different than what you've always done. But the results speak for themselves. Try them. Apply them. See what changes. I promise you, IT will be everything